Welcome to Inspiring Histories, where ancient secrets and biblical mysteries come to life. What if there was a language older than time itself? A language not born from human culture, but woven into creation itself, spoken in Eden, the very first words ever uttered by mankind. Could this have been the perfect language, one that held not just meaning, but power? A tongue so pure, so precise, that it allowed Adam to speak directly with God. For centuries, scholars, theologians, and linguists have debated this mystery. Was it Hebrew, Aramaic, or something far more ancient, something lost to time? And if it was the original divine tongue, why did it disappear? Some believe remnants of this language still exist, hidden in sacred texts, ancient rituals, and the structures of modern languages. Others claim it was erased on purpose, its power too great for humans to wield. Throughout history, kings, mystics, and researchers have sought to uncover this lost knowledge. Some believed they were on the verge of rediscovering it, but the closer they got, the more the truth seemed to slip away. Today, we embark on a journey to unveil one of the greatest linguistic mysteries of all time. What was the original language of Adam? The Bible provides us with a cryptic clue about the original language of humankind. In the book of Genesis 11:1, before the infamous Tower of Babel incident, it states, "Now the whole world had one language and a common speech." This implies that before humanity was scattered, everyone spoke a single, unified tongue, a language so powerful that it allowed them to challenge divine authority by attempting to build a tower to the heavens. But what was this language? Jewish scholars throughout history, including the famous Maimonides, Rambam, 12th century, believed that Hebrew was the original tongue, the holy language, Lashon HaKodesh, that Adam used to name the animals and speak with God. According to this view, Hebrew wasn't just a human language, it was a divine, preordained speech. However, some ancient sources suggest an even more mysterious possibility. The Book of Jubilees describes how Abraham was taught the language of creation, implying that this sacred tongue was something distinct from what we know as Hebrew today. And then, there are the Kabbalistic traditions, found in texts like the Zohar and Sefer Yetzirah, which describe a primordial language, a set of divine vibrations or symbols that shaped reality itself. But if this language was so sacred and powerful, why did it disappear? Was it lost due to divine punishment, as in the Babel narrative? Or was it hidden, guarded by secret traditions and only revealed to a select few? The search for this mystical first language would drive scholars and mystics alike to the very edge of knowledge, and some believed they had come close to rediscovering it. For centuries, kings, mystics, and scholars have attempted to uncover the first language of humanity, the very tongue spoken by Adam in Eden. Some believed it was hidden within ancient scripts, while others conducted bizarre experiments to force its rediscovery. One of the earliest and most extraordinary recorded experiments to uncover the original human language took place in ancient Egypt under the rule of Pharaoh Psamtik, 7th century BCE. This story, preserved by the Greek historian Herodotus, describes a radical attempt to determine which language was the first, the natural tongue of mankind. Psamtik's hypothesis was simple. If human beings were left to grow up without hearing any spoken words, they would instinctively speak the original, natural language of the world. To test this, he ordered that 2 newborn infants be raised in complete isolation, cared for by a mute shepherd who would provide them food and shelter but never speak to them. For years, the infants grew up in silence. No words, no linguistic influence from any known culture. Then, one day, they reportedly uttered a strange word, bekos. Perplexed, Psamtik and his scholars investigated the meaning of this word. They found that in Phrygian, an ancient Anatolian language, bekos meant bread. This led Psamtik to a shocking conclusion. If the children's first word was Phrygian, then perhaps Phrygian was the original language of mankind, predating Egyptian and all others. But was this truly evidence of the first language, or was it merely a coincidence? Modern scholars argue that the experiment was deeply flawed. The sound the infants made might have been random babbling rather than an actual word. They could have been mimicking natural sounds rather than expressing an innate linguistic memory. The interpretation of bekos as a Phrygian word could have been a case of confirmation bias by Egyptian scholars. Despite these issues, Psamtik's experiment became legendary, inspiring later rulers and thinkers to conduct their own linguistic investigations into the origins of human speech. Nearly 2,000 years after Pharaoh Psamtik's experiment, a Scottish king would attempt to solve the same mystery, but under even stranger conditions. King James IV of Scotland, 1473 to 1513, was a highly educated and intellectually curious ruler, fascinated by science, philosophy, and language. Obsessed with the idea that a single original language once united humanity, he sought to prove that if isolated from all external influences, a person would naturally begin speaking the true, original tongue. To test this, James allegedly ordered 2 newborn babies to be taken to a remote island, away from any human contact, where they would be raised in absolute silence by a mute caretaker. For years, the children lived in isolation, growing up without ever hearing spoken words. Then, according to legend, they began speaking on their own, and what language did they supposedly use? Hebrew. Or at least, that's what the reports claimed. The story, recorded by chroniclers of the time, suggests that the children spoke a rudimentary form of Hebrew, leading some to believe that Hebrew was indeed the divine language of Adam, the very first tongue of humanity. But was this truly a scientific discovery, or just a tale crafted to reinforce biblical beliefs? Skeptics argue that the story may have been exaggerated or even fabricated to support religious ideas about Hebrew as the sacred tongue. There is no confirmed historical evidence that such an experiment actually took place, aside from second-hand accounts. No linguistic documentation of what the children said was ever preserved. Whether true or not, King James' alleged experiment reflects a deep-rooted human obsession, the belief that hidden somewhere in our past is a pure, original language, one that connected us directly to the divine. Few figures embodied the mystical and intellectual pursuit of the original human language more than Dr. John Dee, 1527 to 1608, a man who straddled the worlds of science, alchemy, and the occult. John Dee was a brilliant mathematician, astronomer, and philosopher. He served as the royal advisor to Queen Elizabeth I, yet behind the walls of his private study, he engaged in one of the most secretive and controversial linguistic quests in history. Alongside his associate, the enigmatic Edward Kelly, Dee believed that the original language of Adam was not merely a lost human tongue, but an angelic language spoken by celestial beings before the fall of man. Through ritualistic seances, crystal gazing, and elaborate mystical ceremonies, Dee and Kelly claimed they had made direct contact with supernatural entities who revealed to them an ancient divine script. They called this language Enochian, named after the biblical patriarch Enoch, who was said to have walked with God and received hidden knowledge of heaven. Dee meticulously recorded entire conversations in Enochian, creating complex grammatical structures, alphabets, and phonetics. He truly believed that Enochian was the original tongue of Adam and the angels. This language held immense power, capable of influencing reality itself. Hidden knowledge of creation was embedded within its words. But was Enochian truly the forgotten first language of Eden, or just a fabricated mystical system? Critics argue that there is no evidence that Enochian was spoken anywhere outside Dee and Kelly's records. The language's grammar and syntax were inconsistent, suggesting it was invented rather than inherited. Dee and Kelly may have been influenced by existing languages, particularly Hebrew and Latin. However, Enochian remains one of the most mysterious linguistic phenomena in history. Some modern occultists and researchers claim that the language still holds hidden meanings and untapped power. Did John Dee come dangerously close to rediscovering the language of Adam? Or was he simply chasing a forbidden illusion, one that led him deeper into the unknown? Perhaps the answer lies somewhere between science and mysticism, waiting for the right person to unlock its secrets. Jewish mysticism offers one of the most compelling interpretations of the original language. According to the Kabbalah, the first language was not merely a system of words, it was the language of creation itself. Sefer Yetzirah, the Book of Creation, an ancient mystical text, claims that God created the universe using the 22 letters of the Hebrew alphabet, not just as symbols, but as fundamental building blocks of reality. The Zohar, the foundational book of Kabbalah, suggests that Adam's original language contained spiritual frequencies and vibrations that allowed him to communicate directly with God and nature. Some Kabbalists even believe that each Hebrew letter carries divine energy, and that when spoken in the correct way, they can activate cosmic forces. If this is true, was the confusion of languages at Babel more than just an act of division? Was it an intentional restriction, a way to prevent humanity from accessing divine power? Some religious traditions suggest that Adam's original tongue was too powerful for mortal beings to wield responsibly. The idea of a lost language with supernatural abilities appears in multiple ancient traditions, from the Sanskrit mantras of Hinduism to the magical incantations in early Christian and Islamic mystical texts. Some Gnostic sects believed that Adam's language contained the true names of all things, a concept echoed in various magical and occult traditions. The Book of Enoch describes how fallen angels, the Watchers, taught humanity forbidden knowledge, including sacred words that had the power to manipulate nature and summon supernatural beings. Could it be that this language was intentionally suppressed to prevent humanity from becoming too powerful? The confusion of languages at Babel was not merely a linguistic event, it was a moment that fundamentally altered human civilization and consciousness. Before Babel, humanity may have existed in a state of linguistic unity, where communication was not just about speech, but something far deeper. This suggests that early humanity was not only linguistically unified, but may have experienced the world in a profoundly different way. Some scholars and mystics have speculated that the original language was more than mere words. It was a higher form of expression, possibly even supernatural in nature. What if this pre-Babel language allowed for deeper cognitive understanding, a form of speech so direct and precise that misunderstanding was impossible? Telepathic communication, Some ancient traditions suggest that before the fall of language, people could communicate through thoughts, emotions, and vibrations, rather than through imperfect spoken words. Divine insight and connection. If Adam's language was truly a divine tongue, could it have enabled direct communication with God, angels, or higher realms of consciousness? Certain esoteric traditions even claim that the spoken word had creative power, meaning that when ancient humans spoke, their words could influence reality itself. This echoes the biblical idea that God spoke the universe into existence. Genesis 1 verse 3, "And God said, 'Let there be light.'" If this was true, then the Tower of Babel was not just a punishment, it was a reset. A way to limit humanity's potential and separate them from their primordial power. When God confused the languages at Babel, it did more than create different dialects. It fundamentally altered human thought and society. Once humans could no longer understand each other, they lost access to shared wisdom and collective progress. Ancient knowledge, once unified, became scattered among different cultures. As soon as humanity was split into separate linguistic groups, barriers formed, not just in language, but in culture, worldview, and ideology. Some scholars believe this event set the stage for future wars, nationalism, and religious divisions. Some modern linguists, such as Sapir and Whorf, have proposed that language shapes the way we perceive reality. Could the shift from a universal divine language to fragmented human languages have altered the way we experienced the world itself? Perhaps the real consequence of Babel was not just the loss of a single language, but the loss of a unified consciousness, one that allowed humanity to work together as one. What if the original language was never truly lost? What if it is still embedded in the very fabric of reality, hidden within numbers, vibrations, and the structure of the universe itself? If someone were to rediscover the language of Eden, what would it mean? Would it restore humanity's lost connection to the divine? Would it unlock hidden knowledge, revealing secrets beyond imagination? Or would it become, once again, a forbidden power, too great for any human to wield? One thing is certain, the search for the first language of mankind is not over. Perhaps, somewhere in the world, someone has already begun to piece together its remnants. Perhaps, one day, it will be spoken again. What do you think? Could the original language of Adam still exist? Share your thoughts in the comments. If you love uncovering lost mysteries, make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for our next revelation.